Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
This is the greatest show!
And now, here's your host, Clint Arthur.
All right, everybody. This is Clint Arthur, and welcome to the greatest show of all time right here on 77 WABC Radio in New York City. And if you are an author, a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur, an expert of any kind, it's time for you to celebrate, because this is the place where you learn how to be heard, how to be seen, and how to be wanted in a big way so that you can have the impact, influence, and income that you deserve, and even more than you deserve, because as we all know, a lot of times celebrities get paid much more money than they actually deserve. How much money does Kim Kardashian really deserve? That's the question I want you to think about. And today we have a very special guest on the show. His name is Igor Pinchevsky. He is the CEO of itfirm.com. And Igor, thank you so much for joining me on the greatest show of all time.
Hey, Clint. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, you have a very interesting accent. It does not sound like you're from the Bronx or Atlanta or Texas. Where are you from? And when did you come to the U.S. of A.?
I was actually hoping you wouldn't notice, but since you asked, it was May of 1993. My parents, my sister, my entire family packed our belongings, got on a train to Moscow. From there on a plane to New York, and from New York we flew into Los Angeles.
Where did you start out? What was your city where you grew up as a little kid?
I was born in Moldova, part of Soviet Union. It was the smallest and the poorest state at that time, probably still is.
What's your biggest memory from the time when you were traveling to America?
The biggest one, which is going to be a little bit of a shock. So we were immigrating at the time as Soviet Union fell apart. And basically the local politicians and powerful people were trying to take over all the government assets. So it was a really scary and dangerous time. It was the wild, wild west. The biggest thing that stuck out to me was we hired a security firm, and that was basically ex-military guys, men, with automatic weapons, right? The only time I saw a machine gun was when I was watching Rambo. And we're here sitting in a bus with a group of about 10 men, fully armed, bulletproof vests, taking us from the train station to the airport, because at that time, a lot of people who were trying to immigrate and leave the country were kidnapped, robbed, among other things. Because usually when you're leaving, you take all your possessions and your belongings with you. There would be gold and money and everything else. So it was really scary for an 11-year-old to go through that kind of experience. Until this day, I still think about that.
You had like 10 guys on the bus with you with guns. How much does that cost?
I honestly have no idea. I was a kid at that time. But whatever it was better to pay them to guarantee their security instead of losing everything.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of value out of that story. We're in very dangerous times right now. I know I was very, very enthralled by that story. So thank you for that. When you landed in Hollywood, you were 11 years old. Did you go straight into the IT business at that time?
I didn't go straight into IT business, but money was always on my mind, and I had this entrepreneurship blood boiling in me. When we moved, I was about 11 years old. At about 12, we lived in Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard. A lot of restaurants, Chinese restaurants were there. With my broken English, I went in and I asked, because I saw flyers from the restaurants, right? And somebody was passing out. I'm like, okay, I don't need English. I don't need any skills for that. Let me try it out. So for $5, a couple of hours and free Chinese food, I was given the opportunity to pass out the flyers around my neighborhood.
When you were 11?
When I was 11.
Okay, you ready for this? My first job when I was 10 years old was on the streets of New York, passing out flyers for $1 an hour.
We have something in common.
Wow, that is so cool, man. That is so cool. How did you get into IT, and when did your adventure with computers really begin?
Yeah, so I always had the passion and I guess an easy understanding of technology, right? That was back in Moldova, and that was about 1991 when we got our first TV. right? We only had 3 channels, right? They were not on all the time, but they started airing Mexican soap operas, right? So except that there was only news, right? Communism and stuff like that. So my mom, my grandma, the only thing they would watch is that. And obviously there was no such thing as DVR and TiVo. You couldn't, if you miss it, you miss it, right? So they had to hook up a VCR. And my job was to record the video, the show for them so they can watch it when they would get back home. Now, at one point, the tape got stuck or something happened to it. And I knew if they would miss a single episode of their favorite Mexican soap opera, I'd be in trouble. All right, so I got out a screwdriver, I started messing with the thing, I fixed it. So that kind of was the moment that I'm like, okay, I could fix things when it came to technology. And I started, working on that. At first, I went to school. I wanted to be a surgeon, right, a medical doctor. I got into college, and I was given a list of classes to take, and years of that, and I'm like, that's just not going to happen, right? I'm not going to waste 20 years in school for something. I'm like, I thought about what's the next best thing to becoming a surgeon. I can be a butcher. I still get to cut and slice a couple of months, but the money is not the same. So this is when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go into a technology field. I went to a private school, got my degree in network engineering. I was only 18 years old when I graduated and got my first full-time job working for a credit union as an IT coordinator at 18 years old. From there, I worked there for about 3.5 years. I really disliked my boss at that time, and I just said, it was late 90s, early 2000s. Internet was booming, and that's when I started my company.
Tell us about the beginning of the company and what kind of work you were doing then and how that's evolved into what you do today.
We started off completely under a different business model. Back then, we would just sell things. A lot of hardware, software, we would just set things up. Break and fix model, right? You call us when something breaks. Completely opposite what we're trying to do today, and what we do for our clients is being proactive in terms of making sure that they're secured, backed up, their systems are running, and efficiently improving their business processes and performance.
What are some of the names of big companies you serve?
I'm not allowed to say all. We have non-disclosure agreements. We serve different industries, from high luxury fashion brands that you're all familiar with that are on Rodeo Drive, Fifth Avenue. Gyms, I'm not going to mention any names, but you've seen the gold Venice logo. We had a governor that was a good spokesperson for that company as well. We do a lot of healthcare, legal, accounting, CPA, small business of all types is our target. What makes me really excited is delivering a solution that will provide a peace of mind for them and me. And what I mean by that is having the proper backups in place, security, access control. Most business owners don't go thinking what would happen if an IT disaster strikes. If there's a power outage, a fire, currently, a real life scenario in Hollywood, we're dealing with riots. We had clients over there that had their businesses burned down and vandalized. Well, luckily, we have their data off-site. Had they not had us, they would be out of business. It's simple as that. So providing that peace of mind for my clients that regardless what happens, whether it's a man-made IT disaster or caused by Mother Nature, regardless, they'll be safe. They'll continue to operate. That's the solution I want to provide to my clients.
Hey, everybody, if you are a small, medium, or even a large size business and you want technology to help you to power your business, get in touch with Igor, the IT Firm CEO. It's at itfirm.com. Is there a phone number for people to call if they want to get a hold of you guys?
800-717-4849. If you're local to us, you can dial 704-912-4999.
All right, it's my favorite time of the greatest show of all time, the home repair section of the show, with none other than the CEO of homerepair.com, Mr. Tony Silva. What's on tap for the people of New York City this week, Tony?
This week, Clint, I thought it'd be a great idea to share some ideas of where you could find work. A lot of people they're out of work right now, and the interesting thing about this, going to a lot of these happy hour Zoom meetings and these mastermind groups and talking to different people and CEOs of different industries is it seems like some industries are booming. They're with this COVID thing, they're just out of control busy. And other industries are they're smashed. I mean, they're not doing well. So, I thought, just from my own perspective in my own business, I could share a tip with the audience. Hey, if you're looking for work, what would be a good type of business that you might be able to go work for and replace an income, maybe start a new career?
Yeah, the essential industries are where it's at. And I know that home repair is an essential industry in almost every state.
It is. I think it is now for sure. I know that there were some states we had a little bit of challenges with that had to be an emergency. But even with that's one of the keys there. Residential construction. A lot of times people think, well, I've never built anything in my life. I don't know how to use a hammer. Construction's for my buddy Ralph. Who knows what the deal is, but construction is a different animal these days. You don't even have to know how to build anything to get involved with a good career in the construction industry because, with technology, there's accountants that are needed and marketing people that are needed, especially with like social media and content. And it's an industry that is exploding because we're always looking for great people. Plus, a new niche that's come up is the whole disinfecting type of restoration company. So we've always done restoration work. A storm comes, by the way, Mother Nature doesn't care about COVID. She just comes through and kicks the door down. And so storms happen. And those are essential services, essential companies to work for or to have do work. And now there's this new type of business that's kind of emerging out of the restoration industry, which is the disinfecting. Because we're already equipped with all the chemicals and the supplies and the ultraviolet lights and everything. So the industry really is equipped to handle this type of a pandemic. And it's very busy right now. And it's a great, if you get with the right company, it really is a great career. It really is.
Amen. So what type of, do you need experience to get into this thing, or what's the best way for somebody to go about getting into a new job in the construction and home repair and associated allied industries?
The real key really is finding the right company. A good company that is well-rounded and has a lot of support, they're going to be able to take on people from, all walks of life. If you have good customer service and you care about what you're doing, you're a good worker, right? You're a good hard worker. It's not going to be that hard. The challenge is going to be finding the right company to work with. And so I have some key kind of indicators that these companies ask about these things. And if you kind of hit these 5 deals, you're probably going to be applying for a good company.
Okay, the first thing to look for as an applicant is?
First thing is I would ask if they drug and background check their employees, right? And that sounds like an odd one. Like, why would an employee ask that? But look, that's a key indication that company, they want to stay around a long time, right? They don't want to take any chances with someone getting hurt and being out of business. And if that's important to them, that should be important to you. So do they drug and background check?
Fantastic. Number 2?
The next one is do they advertise for 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week emergency services? That's a good indication that it's a restoration company, a company that is ready to receive calls for catastrophes. That's job security.
Fantastic. Number 3.
Third is, do they have an abundance of online positive reviews, right? It's not that difficult to get 2 or 3 good reviews on Google, but are there an abundance? Are there 100? And what are the customers saying? Again, it's longevity. What does this company actually provide as a service to the community?
Fantastic. Number 4?
This is kind of an odd one, but find out who the owner is and do some creeping, right? social media is out there. Who do you work for? What is the integrity of the ownership of the company? What are their, moral and ethical values? Again, like what somebody puts on out in the, in their advertising, does it match their kind of personal life? And that, some people might disagree with that, but they really need to line up. So for me, I think find out who the ownership is and who they really are.
Yeah, you would do it if you were going on a date with a person, you'd Google them. Why wouldn't you Google the owner of the company? And the fifth one
is, do they have multiple locations, right? Have they already figured out how to scale? Do they know how to go from their neighborhood to the next town? Again, that creates some job security. You might have to travel from time to time, but hey, would you rather travel and keep making a paycheck if things slow down somewhere, or would you rather not? So, a company that's well-rounded and has multiple locations, in my opinion, is a great indication of a good, stable company.
And one that's growing, and you want to be with a company that's growing because you're either growing or you're dying. That's really what it means. And I'm not talking about growing around the waist because you're eating 5 meals a day. I'm talking about growing economically, successfully. Hey, these were all great ideas. If anybody is interested, I know Tony's always looking for good people. Go to homerepair.com, or you can call, what's the number, Tony?
877-RED-HOUSE.
All right, more great stuff next week with Tony Silva on The Greatest Show of All Time.
Great, thanks, Clint.
I got a guest here. Her name is Linda Fostek. She's the author of And Now What? Is that a best-selling book, Linda?
It's not yet a best-selling book, but it's getting closer and closer.
After this interview, it's going to be a best-selling book. And she is known as the Crisis Planner. Linda, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some of it with me and my audience and share some of your wisdom. And how did this all begin for you?
3 years ago, my gorgeous 6'8" fireman hunk husband unexpectedly died and left me to pick up the pieces. And it's really, the story began before that. For the 8 years prior to that, he was becoming more and more disabled. I mean, he had diabetes, he had 5 back surgeries, he'd had 2 heart attacks, and I was his caregiver through all of that. And literally, when he had kidney failure in the last 3 years of his life, we then transitioned to actually doing home hemodialysis, where I was doing dialysis with him at home. And, so obviously it was very clear to me that his health was like a collapsing lawn chair. He literally was, he'd fix one thing and then something else would happen, and it would go on and on and on. And you think you saved it, but then you're still going down. And ultimately he had an adverse drug reaction to an antibiotic that cost him his life. It truly changed my life. And, for so many people, when something tragic happens in your life that you don't really expect, because he was much too young to pass away. He was only 62. And, it's like, what do you do with your life when your soulmate and your life partner is no longer there by your side? And for me, it just cemented a journey that I had literally started that was a legacy project from my dad. And that was to become the crisis planner, to help people be prepared for these unexpected events of life, that they could actually recover faster, avoid family conflicts, and control the chaos that crisis brings into your life. So I became a planning expert.
Linda, I know that everybody's thinking, well, that's never going to happen to me. What do you have to say to those people?
Certainly, a lot of people probably would have said that if it hadn't been for COVID-19 that we've all been through, and we've seen how our lives have turned completely upside down. And that happened overnight. We were not prepared for being shut at home for months at a time. This is now 3 months, and finally New York is opening and we can actually go to a restaurant, maybe. It's been a real challenge for us in that, truly, our lives turned completely upside down, and so many people were not prepared. And you think about all the people that became ill and whose families lost their loved ones and they didn't know what to do because they were shut out from the hospital. They couldn't have funerals, they couldn't grieve, they couldn't mourn. They weren't prepared for what was going to happen. And what I advocate doing is actually having all those plans in place before you need them. And if you do that, then you can get through anything with the least amount of stress and chaos in your life. And that's really what my whole mission is to bring this to everybody's attention, show them how easy it is to put things together and to create a plan that will work for you, whether you have a hurricane or a death in the family or a divorce or, something else goes wrong, a flood in the basement. I have tools and resources that literally help people be prepared for all of those things, which for me is very exciting.
Not only is that something that nobody wants to do, but also anybody who even contemplates it, they think that's going to take a lot of time. It sounds like a lot of work and a lot of time.
Well, I've really made every effort to make that simple and easy for people to do. And, the book And Now What sets out a very simple template to follow. And if you just go through the 8 steps of planning and my planning roadmap, it's really easy. And I'm also now offering planning services to actually walk you through the process, hold your hand if necessary, because it can be overwhelming. It can seem overwhelming and you don't know what you got already. And you might really be surprised how much you actually have put together before you actually need it. I know I was myself.
Isn't that kind of common sense? Like, don't I just need a will and to know where the insurance policies are? What else?
You think about the most common things, which the legal documents are things that you think about, but some of the legal documents you may not think about, like something like your advance directives, your healthcare proxy, and your living will. If you have a child who's over 18, do you know that if that child ever has a car accident and is incapacitated or becomes ill and ends up in the hospital, you as a parent have no legal right to make any medical decisions for that child because they're over 18 unless you have those documents in place. A lot of parents are shocked to find that out. Sometimes it's the silliest thing that you don't even know is important that becomes important. I worked with a family, the uncle who had never married, never had any children, always went into his house via his garage door opener, has a heart attack, EMS comes in, takes him out of the house, closes the door behind them. The house is now locked. He goes to the hospital and dies, and nobody in the family has a key to the house. Nobody can get into the house. And if they broke in, they would have been arrested for breaking and entering because they couldn't even break in until the will was read. Thank God he didn't have a dog in the house, that needed attention but it was simply the key was the key. And they didn't know. So sometimes it's the smallest thing that you don't know that you need. And that's some of the things that I go through in my planning process is to identify those pieces that, the things you don't know are the things that hurt you the most.
It sounds like this is about caring. That guy didn't really care about his family. That's what it sounds like to me.
He didn't care and he didn't think. He had no thought that he was going to have a heart attack. Who has the key to your house? You got to wonder. Obviously, you want it to be somebody that you know, like, and trust that would have a key to your house. But that's just one of the things.
I think that the work you do is very important and also very challenging for a lot of people. What I really like the most that I heard you say is that you do a done with you service now. I think that's very smart.
Yes.
How can people find out more about the book and the work you do and the kit? I know you have the kit that you sell.
Right. Well, they can go to thecrisisplanner.com or they can reach me via email at lindafostek@thecrisisplanner.com.
My guest has been the one and only crisis planner herself, Linda Fostek. And if you enjoyed this, I tell you what, you're coming to Dr. Oz, right, Linda?
You bet. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Why are you going to Dr. Oz? I mean, he's a doctor.
Because a lot of what I deal with is health records as well. And Dr. Oz, Patch Adams, Jocelyn Elders, they're all in the medical field. I came from the medical field. I was 22 years as a pharmaceutical rep. So for me, meeting these people is really going to be very, very special. And of course, Paula Deen, I absolutely adore. I can't wait for that event. And astronauts have inspired us all. So you look at the amazing lineup you have for this event. If you miss it, you really have missed it, because this is going to be so awesome.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, what I have put together, this is going to be, I've marketed this in certain places as the greatest expert marketing event ever created. It really is. I mean, the massive amount of value you get. I have less than 20 gold opportunities left, okay? If you want pictures with all of those people, you need to be a gold. And I have less than 20 of those tickets left, and you need to get one at www.imm20.com. That stands for Instant Marketing Miracle. That's what this is. This is a miracle, a marketing package that's going to have a miraculous effect on your career as an expert, an author, a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur, because especially today, you are competing against AOC +3. You are competing against Black Lives Matter. You're competing against riots. You're competing against arson. You're competing against Donald Trump. You're competing against the coronavirus and the global pandemic. All that stuff is competing for everyone's attention. How are you as an expert going to stand out against all of that? Well, that's what I got all these major celebrities to help everybody. They're going to take pictures with you. I'm going to ask them questions. They're going to answer questions and tell stories, and you're going to have stories like you're going to say, holy cow, Linda, how did you meet Dr. Oz? And you could say, well, we were at a conference together at CNN Center in Atlanta, and I asked him about the crisis, and he said blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to ask these questions for everybody so that everybody's going to have the right questions about these experts that they can use as stories in their marketing. And this whole issue of celebrity storytelling, this is a thing invented by me, celebrity storytelling. It's so powerful. People care about celebrities more than they care about their own children, but not as much as they care about their pets. I know that's true for me. And
me too, but I don't have any children. I just have a pet, so that's okay.
We're going to have a lot of fun because you've been to quite a few of my events. Are they fun?
They are absolutely amazing. I learned so much. You are an incredible teacher, so willing to share your knowledge and wisdom with us. And like you say, do what Clint says, because if you do what Clint says, you will be successful. It's as simple as that.
I'm going to be teaching my reality series. I'm going to be gifting everyone at this event my new book called Your Reality Series, How to Sell to Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime, as the star of your own reality show. And I'm going to be teaching the 5 pillars of my celebrity entrepreneurship framework. I'm going to teach you what do real celebrity entrepreneurs do, like Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins and me and Linda and everybody else at our event is a celebrity entrepreneur, all different levels. And some of the celebrity entrepreneurs that are going to be there for you to meet and learn from and attach to include Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew, the Surgeon General of the United States, celebrity chef Paul Dean, Patch Adams, the guy who inspired the movie starring Robin Williams, NASA astronaut Mike Massimino, and many, many more. It's all going to be happening in Atlanta, August 7, 8, 9. If you don't get one of these last 20 gold opportunities, you're loco! You're loco! I'm in Mexico, man, and that's what they say down here. You loco, man. You loco. And don't be loco. Be smart. And go to imm20.com. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Greatest Show of All Time. I am honored to be your host, Clint Arthur. And until next week, Sunday night, 9:30 p.m., right here on 77 WABC. I will see you then, back here for The Greatest Show of All Time.
The greatest show of all time.